This week I wanted to highlight an account called Sportsball, which does these amazing animated graphic videos where it's kind of his own style and he draws graphs about data about things, usually around sports that are really interesting and insightful. Sort of its own little niche, but I think very compelling. It's also amazing that you can develop your own aesthetic and people know what they're going to get when they come to your account. It's a great way to build up loyalty. And then they're all different. This one here is about NFL evaluations. One coming up in a minute is going to be about Olympic gold medals. My actually kids are obsessed with this more recently. And there's other best practices here as well, showing you what you're going to get at the very beginning, or at least telling you. He uses stories to promote some of his reels, which is great. When he does use carousels, he uses music to make them more engaging. All sorts of awesome things. So go give him a follow, check out some of the best practices. I'm here in France with some amazing creators. Isia
Hi.
and Van.
Hi.
And I would ask them to give you some aspiring creators some advice.
Yes, my advice is don't wait to have the best camera, the best setting to begin. We all begin in our room, so go for it.
I love it.
My advice is don't have limiting belief on how many views you can do, and don't think that your niche can't work.
There you go. You heard it. Great advice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This week I wanted to spotlight Knotted Neon, a woman named Ainsley from Toronto. She makes amazing crochet art products, not sure what to call it. Here you can see she starts up close, backs up, so it's almost a photo that turns into a video. She's using music to make the content more engaging. Here, quick cuts between all sorts of wild things that she has made. Highlights to make sure you've got easy access to things that she's posted in the past that she thinks are super important. And she's even using our shop feature right there, which is another best practice. Give her a follow. I do want Instagram to be a place where creatives can feel comfortable experimenting and expressing themselves.
Yeah.
But given that obviously people are on Instagram for a reason, you want to grow an audience in order to achieve some sort of goal or outcome. Finding that balance between caring about and understanding what's resonating and what's not, but not letting that completely stifle your creativity and being willing to post something even it's not going to do as well, but because it's aligned with your goals is a fine, tricky line.
It is. I literally, because I said, I'm starting to track projects as I'm calling it. I'm going to be doing this for 67 weeks. If I look at this as a movie or a series or a TV show, like, how do I want it to end? Whether I win, I make it, or I don't, what do I want people to nonetheless feel? And whenever you think in terms of like a bigger picture or a bigger story, it's a lot easier to put up those videos. It's like, this is just a piece of like the building block. This doesn't need to go viral. It just needs to tell a story. And the way I look at it now, I'm like, let's just do a bunch of pieces that will tell a story. And then when we have that one video that does go viral, everybody will come back through all these and get a more full picture of the story.
This week's Creator Spotlight, I wanted to highlight Big Manny. There's some amazing science videos here in the UK.
Don't know, man. Making up today, man. Science things and that.
Enjoy. I'll give them a follow right there. Cheers. Some advice. When you're evaluating how something you post on Instagram does, make sure you keep track of how it's doing, not only over the first 2 days, but over the first week or two. Now, it's true most things you post are going to get most of their reach in, let's call it 2 days, but some things are more evergreen in nature. What's funny today might be funny in a week or 2 weeks. And a lot of what people consume on Instagram is from accounts they don't follow. We call those recommendations. And most recommendations are actually more than 2 days old. So keep an eye on engagement on those play counts, like counts, etc. Not only over those first 2 days, but over the first week, 2, or even 3. Also, small plug, engage in your comments over the first up to week. It will help your engagement over time. Let me know what you think and if you want any more advice. Later. Some advice. One of the most important signals we use in ranking is sends per reach. So out of all the people who saw your reel or your photo, how many of them sent it to a friend in a DM? At Instagram, we're trying to be a place where people can be creative, but in a way that brings people together. We want not only to be a place where you passively consume content, but where you discover things you want to tell your friends about. A reel that made you laugh so hard you wanted to send it to your brother or your sister. Or a soccer highlight that blew your mind and you wanted to send it to another fan. That kind of thing. So don't force it as a creator, but if you can, when you're making content, think about making content that people would want to send to a friend, to someone that they care about. And it will help you reach over time. More advice to come. Peace. Why comedy, though, specifically? Because on one hand, it's probably the vertical that does the most consistently well across all the major platforms. On the other hand, it is a hard business.
Yeah. Lately, I've been thinking about what kind of world am I building? If someone goes through all my content, if they scroll through my feed, what kind of experience are they going to get over like 10 videos? So I think of it, I think of it as a playground.
Yeah.
Like I try to have.
That's beautiful. What an
Yeah.
amazing idea.
I mean, I try to have fun, and I try to have fun with other people because I have a place where I'm competitive, and that's like out on the track, you know,
Yeah.
that's out in business. I try to be real competitive. When it comes to being creative and like online, I'm like, let's just get as many people in on this as possible, having fun.
A creator asked me recently, are we going to do long form video on Instagram? And the answer is no. And I wanted to explain why. Now, we do a number of different things on Instagram, but at the heart of it, there are really two jobs. One, connecting you with friends, and two, helping you explore your interests, usually through short form video. And it turns out that those two things are symbiotic. You see an amazing video that makes you laugh out loud from a comedian doing a bit, and you send it from someone who you know is going to laugh just as loud as you did. Or for me, I see a highlight of an amazing soccer goal or trick, and I send it to someone who I know loves soccer as much as I do. So these things are about connecting with friends over your interests. Now, it turns out long form video is less symbiotic with these other jobs. If you watch a 10 or 20 minute video, you see less content from friends, you interact with your friends less, and you're actually less likely to send that content or that video to a friend. So we're not going to go after that business because it's part of our core identity to connect people with friends, and we don't want to undermine that by going after long form video. Now, we understand short form video doesn't always do that, but it can, and we try and prioritize short form video that does. So let me know down below in the comments what you think. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of hot takes on this one. Peace. This is right, actually. So when you add someone as a collaborator, you have to do it while you post the post initially. You cannot retroactively add someone as a collaborator. That is really an oversight on our part, so we should try to get that fixed. Thanks for the idea. This week I want to highlight Ruben. He's a photographer for National Geographic, and he does great stuff on Instagram. Here you can see some of his reels. They're actually animated in interesting ways. I think he uses drones. It's very cool. This video went viral, which is awesome to see. This crazy sand slide. A video with music, which helps, of his print photography. Smart. He also uses his broadcast channel to sell his prints. Also very cool to see. He's got a bunch of highlights, and he does post photos. Usually his carousels, that helps get more engagement, and he even will sneak a video in there from time to time, which also helps with engagement. Give him a follow. Nobody reaches everybody who follows them when they post on Instagram. Now, I want to be clear. It is in our interest as a business to connect people with content that they care about. So if you post something and your followers care about it, we want them to find that content because it will help them be happy, you be happy, and it will help us as a business. But if not everybody sees something you post, there are a number of reasons why that happens. One, maybe half of them roughly didn't even open up Instagram that day. Two, of those who did, maybe some of them didn't spend that much time on Instagram and they didn't scroll deep enough into feed or into stories to come across your post. Three, maybe they did scroll deep and they are interested in your content and we just did a bad job ranking and that's on us. Four, maybe your content got caught up in some sort of safety measure, but you can find that out by going to profile settings and account status and looking for any flags. Or five, maybe they're not as interested in your content as they used to be. That's not saying that your content is bad. I'm sure it's not. It's just that people's interests change over time. I know that's happened to me in my account over the years as well. So what can you do? Well, the number one thing is to experiment and to look for patterns. What types of things that you post tend to do best and double down on those patterns. For me, one of the things I'm seeing is quick takes like this do well, so I'm trying to do more of those. Anyway, hopefully this helps. See you all soon. Peace. I want to focus these creator spotlights a little bit more on best practices. So this week we're doing Cedric Grolet, an amazing chef out of Paris. Now, one thing he does, uses music really well to get your attention, but also these contrasts, zoom in, zoom out, keeping the video really dynamic and keeping you guessing. Second, really good with textures. He's working with his hands and he's bringing you close to what he's working with, which is actually kind of an amazing thing and not only relevant to chefs, to anybody working with their hands. And lastly, also really thoughtful about his transition. He's super particular about these, holds very still, his team changes everything up, and then comes back and keeps the camera going. So give him a follow. Oh, also, always a great practice, stories, a little behind the scenes, what's going on that day. Give him a follow, he does amazing content. He also does collabs. I just did one with him recently. But if you're making videos, he's a great guy to learn from. Peace. We're rolling out 2 ways for you to actually create an AI on Instagram. Creator AIs and AI characters. Now, creator AIs are an option for creators to create an extension of themselves that is customized based on everything that they've shared to Instagram and any other customizations they want to do. For instance, you can tell it what topics you don't want it to talk about. And you can put this on your profile, and it's a way to reach more people. I answer a lot of the same questions over and over about how verification works, how ranking works, how Instagram works. And this can be a way for anybody to go to my profile and message with that AI and get answers to their questions without having to go through all of my old videos. The second is not just for creators, it's for anybody who wants to make an AI. And these are AI characters, and you can give them any personality that you want, and hopefully they can entertain and inspire. And you can put those on your profile too. Now, let me know down below in the comments what you think. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of hot takes on this one, and we're going to be rolling these out starting in the US over the next couple weeks. See y'all soon. Peace. Some advice on high production value content. A lot of creators think that they have to create really, really polished content to do well on Instagram. But you really should evaluate whether or not high production value is aligned with your goals when you're using Instagram. Now, if you are doing branded content deals with premium or luxury brands, then yeah, it might make sense to try and create that really, really polished look. But if you are a musician or an athlete or a comedian, honestly, it might work against you. It might make your content a lot less relatable. So think about whether or not being polished is aligned with the story that you want to tell and the brand that you want to build, and then decide based on that. Good luck. Peace. I wanted to give you a quick heads up about a change coming to Insights on Instagram. Now, for a long time now, you've been able to see how many plays a Reels get, and we're going to evolve that forward and make it consistent across all types of content. So photos, carousels, stories, and Reels. And we're now going to call it views. So your view is different than your reach. The same person can view the same piece of content multiple times. We're now calculating it in the same way, deduping it in the same way across photos, carousels, stories, and Reels. And you're going to be seeing this roll out over the next couple weeks. Now, if you're trying to figure out how your content is doing, the best thing to look at are not only views, but also sends per reach, which I've talked about in the past. So sends, reach, and views, probably the most important metrics for anybody trying to understand how their content is doing on Instagram. See y'all soon. Peace. This is a creator named Aaron Fleming. His account is Retro Garage Official. He does great stuff on Instagram. You can see his Reels gets right into the content, consistent. He's got the captions at the top, helps when there isn't sound on. He has a series where he teases and asks you that he bet you can't guess what car it is, and he does that for a bunch of different retro cars. That's a pattern that makes it easy for him to create new content over time without having to face a blank canvas. When he posts photos, uses carousels and music, which is great. Makes it more engaging. He uses all of our features, highlights for special moments, which is pretty fun to watch here. Also, here's one for road trips, so there are themes to these highlights. And like any great creator who's using using Instagram properly, he uses stories to give you a sense of what's happening behind the scenes. Give him a follow, tons of best practices. I do read the comments. Now, if you've commented and I haven't been able to respond to you, I apologize. There are more comments than I can get back to, but we do learn from these comments. We learn about how people are feeling about the platform. We learn about bugs. We get ideas for new features. And it's an important thing just for all creators to do is to engage with their community because it helps them get a pulse on how things are going. So I highly recommend it, even though sometimes it can be a bit intense. This week, I wanted to spotlight Hannah Wilson. She's a creator's creator. She gives you great tips on how to make amazing content with just your phone. Here's a really cool thing I think she does where she zooms in on the screen grab of just the camera app, which is very cool. Here she's showing you a bunch of tricks about how to make a video really compelling and interesting with transitions and zoom effects and angles. In this case, about a soccer game. Again, really creative, really scrappy, making great stuff with just her phone. And she does all the best practices. She uses stories all the time. She's got highlights for different themes. She's doing everything right. Give her a follow. She's got great advice. People seem to, in a world where they're inundated with overly scripted and produced content, really have a lot of appetite and hunger for authentic content.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone's going to be their full authentic self in public online, but you will share more and more of that depending on how comfortable you are sharing.
Yeah.
And when you are tapping into something authentic, people can tell.
Yeah.
And it resonates. And I think we see over and over across all these different verticals, that's the kind of content that tends to do well.
Yeah.
And you won't always expect it. Like a random example is for soccer, what most of the world calls football, like we see often warm-ups do really well. If you actually see someone going live during a warm-up, you just feel like you're getting a little bit of...
So that, like you're there.
Yeah, exactly. Like a behind the scenes, a peek behind the curtain that you would normally not get. Why do we prioritize sends instead of saves? Well, we actually do value both in ranking, but we focus more on sends primarily because our whole hope is to inspire creativity that brings people together. And if you save something, that's great, but it's usually something you do on your own. If you see a comedy bit that makes you laugh out loud and then you send it to a friend who you know is going to laugh just as hard as you did, that's a different type of connection. That is a social experience, not just a solo experience. And we're very focused on bringing people together. But saves matter too, so don't ignore those either. I don't think we're going to build the ability to edit... I don't think we're going to build the ability to edit stories. The whole point of stories is that they're quick, easy ways to share what's going on in your life. They're about being authentic. And if you could edit them, that feels a little at odds with that purpose. But I do like the idea of being able to rearrange your highlights. I feel like your profile is your space and you should be able to curate it as you like. So I will bring that one back to the team. Is Instagram about friends or is it about entertainment? I get that question all the time. I actually got it last week at an internal all hands. And the truth is, we're at the intersection of those two ideas. We are not the best place to message a friend. If I'm running late and we're going to grab a coffee, I'm probably going to use WhatsApp. And we're not the best place to just sit back and be entertained. If I'm really tired at the end of the day and need to veg out for a few hours, I'm going to pick Netflix over Instagram. But we can be the best place to talk to the people you care about your interests. And that's really our identity. We're about connecting over creativity. That's why I talk about sends all the time as an important feature in ranking. That's how we build content notes. That's why the reply model for stories is actually based on DMs, and why the way you can reshare something from feed is through messaging as opposed to reposting it to feed. We're always looking for more ways to help people connect around and over their interests. That identity has stayed the same for a long time now and will stay the same in the future. Now, how we meet that mission will change as the world changes. New creative tools this week. Our job is to give creators the flexibility to tell their stories online. And so today we got a couple new features to announce. One is improved text tools. So new fonts, animations, and effects to help you be more expressive on Instagram. And the second is we're finally bringing not only text, but also stickers to photos and carousels. Historically, they've been reserved for just Reels, which doesn't make any sense. So let me know down below in the comments what you think of these new features and what other creative tools you'd like to see us build in the future. See y'all later. Peace. Oliver asks, why don't we support multiple aspect ratios in carousel posts? Which is a great question. Now, historically, we haven't done it because we didn't want the whole carousel to jump around on you as different aspect ratios have different heights, and that might be awkward. But we're actually testing automatically letterboxing the posts for you, which means adding some blank space to make sure that the height is consistent as you swipe. And so if that works out, we'll be able to launch it to everyone. Let me know down below in the comments what else you'd like to see us try. See y'all later. Why should you use audio when you post Reels or even photos and carousels on Instagram? I talk about this a lot, so I figured I would quickly explain why it helps with engagement. The first is the big one, which just makes your content more engaging. When it's more immersive when audio is on, and about half the time people have audio turned on when they use Instagram, you're more likely to get someone's attention. And that'll help in terms of getting more likes, comments, and therefore more reach. The second is, for Reels specifically, you get to be on the audio page. And a lot of people go to audio pages to look for inspiration, and then they might see your Reel, which might also help, again, with reach. Just a way to get your content in front of more people more quickly. Try it out, see if it works. See y'all soon. Peace. This week, I wanted to highlight Koi Sun, who's a hand letter artist out of San Diego. Does really great work. I love how he quickly gets you into the details of his work. You'll see it in a second here. And he shows you how he does what he does. And I love when creatives pay as much attention to their craft as they do to the videos that they produce. I also like a subtle thing he does is when he edits from shot to shot to shot, he makes sure that the subject is in the exact same place, which keeps your attention. And he zooms in like he did just then and brings you in closer, not just with the video, but also with his audio, which is really intimate. Other best practices he uses are things like captions and quickly letting you know what a video is about as soon as it starts. Give him a follow, he does great work. Mir's asking whether or not the cover photo matters when you create a Reel on Instagram. And it does, but only on the margins. What a cover photo does is it makes it really clear what you're going to get when you tap on a Reel. But you only tap on a reel when you see it in Explore or on someone's profile. And most of your reach doesn't come from those places. It comes from feed, it comes from recommendations. So it can help to have a really good cover photo selected, but only on the margins on Instagram. Hopefully this helps. One of the reasons why you've been so successful so quickly has been that you clearly making the content yourself.
Yeah.
It feels like you and your phone.
Yep.
I think too often creators are worried about production value.
Yeah.
But production value should only be dialed up if it's in service of your goal. And like, for instance, if you're trying to create relatable content, production value is almost like an anti-goal.
I don't want to feel like a creator's just trying to make money off of me. I don't want to feel like they're just making it to make it. I want to feel like they're making it because they love it and because they actually want me to see myself in them. I strive to do that because I don't have the fancy equipment. I don't even know how to edit in anything besides CapCut and iMovie. I post the videos that I would send my friends in the group chat.
This week I want to highlight OMG Adrian. He's a creator's creator out of LA, gives you advice about how to make amazing videos. And he does a lot of things really well. One is he always lets you know what the video is going to be about right away. You can even see in the captions in his grid like you see here.
This is your chance.
The second is, and I love this, is he'll give you a narration and he'll actually go from cut to cut to cut with the same audio line, which is a great way to keep the video interesting while you've got one simple focused narrative. And then again, stories always to keep things fresh. Give him a follow. He does great stuff on Instagram, gives great advice.